Dean Curry here, Fantasy Football, RSVP. So let's get right to it with Week 5 of the NFL. The season's just flying by. It's just flying by. Go deep, go deep. We're going to hit Week 5 with Gardner Minshew. We talked about him a couple of weeks ago. The guy's putting up numbers. I mean, he's had like one bad week. He finished the season strong last year. The guy's for real. The offense is for real. Running backs looking good. Their wide receivers, Sharks back. I really like Gardner Minshew. I think he's doing really, really well, and he's going against a team that's falling apart the wheels. Houston Texans. I mean, right now they fired the coach. They're all over the place. They're 0-4. There's a lot of team turmoil. This is a great opportunity for the Jaguars to go in and take control of the situation before they can get a new coach, new system, everything like that. I think it's going to be a golden opportunity for Gardner Minshew. I really like DJ Shark. Looks like he's getting healthy. Looks like he's there. The offense is looking pretty good. But I really like the quarterback. This guy is a consistent fantasy player. He's consistently putting up numbers. He has one bad week and then like 5 good weeks, and he's putting up 20 pretty consistently. So I really like him. Not much more to say. I got to talk about Teddy Bridgewater because, I saw the passing with Teddy, last year with the Saints and how well he was doing, and the arm was back. But a lot of people forget how Teddy Bridgewater used to use his legs. And for the first time, including last year with the Saints, I actually saw him using his legs. And there was spring in his legs on a couple of moves. That's like the Teddy Bridgewater of old. And sometimes these injuries, it takes a while for a quarterback, especially, to get their legs back. And also, there's a mental barrier you have to climb where you mentally, get to a level where you're making moves, and it's a mental. And that's what I saw. I was like, oh my gosh. I said, Teddy Bridgewater's back. He was making high stepping, and there's a mental barrier. I think he's going to take off, and I really like the team. The team started off losing the first few games, and everyone's like, oh, they need to sell off and need to get rid of everyone. Carolina Panthers were a pretty good team last year. You know what I'm saying? And they were using a backup quarterback the whole year, and I'm like, this is pretty much the same team. CMC, is coming back. Very, very soon. And, they have a great, backup, Davis running back. And, McCaffrey's going to come back soon. I really like what's going on there. I like the receivers. I like the quarterback. And, they're not terrible on defense. They've given up some points, but they have some pieces on defense. They just need to kind of bring it together. And they're going against Atlanta. Everyone's putting up 40, 50 points on Atlanta. And Atlanta's got some problems. They got some problems. They got some injuries to their wide receivers. It's just a very good time to go in there. And their defense is, and I like the Falcons and all that. When I'm saying things about a team, I'm not putting a team down. If the defense is good, I say it's good. If it's bad, I say it's bad. It doesn't mean I don't like the Falcons, and it doesn't mean, someone's like, oh, why are you picking on the Falcons on social media? I just call it straight. There's lots of players on the defense I actually like, but if I'm a Jet fan. I'll be the first to say the Jets are an awful football team right now. I'm still a Jet fan, but I just call it straight. That's just how I am. And that's what you want. You want someone to, tell you the way things are. And right now, the Falcons' defense is not good. They're not playing well. And that's just the way it is, and prove me wrong. But I want my audience to kind of know what's going on. And they're not playing well. And Teddy Bridgewater coming in there, Carolina Panther, I really like what's going on there. And I think he's going to have a tremendous week. As far as running backs, we're getting a lot of calls, a lot of text on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and the like. Ask me about Antonio Gibson. I think the guy's coming along. I'm not recommending him this week. I still think he's a stash. I was telling people to draft him. This is an electric guy. But the thing is, it's hard for me to be totally sold on a running back situation when I'm not totally sold on a quarterback situation. Because what they basically do is a lot of times they stack the box and they force the quarterback to throw. And that's what happens a lot, with the Washington football team. And until their quarterback starts to, and I like Haskins, I like him and all that. But there's a lot of room for growth, and that puts a lot of pressure on a young rookie. And I think he's going to get, a lot more touches, and I think he's getting more involved in the offense. But, just to give you a similar, he's a rookie. I'd take Myles Gaskin over Antonio Gibson right now because he's getting more touches. He's got more of a veteran quarterback in Fitzpatrick. They have better wide receivers, although I like McLaurin and certain receivers on Washington. But this is basically how I feel. I think Gibson's good to have as a stash. I would kind of wait. It's always better to be a week late in fantasy football than a week early, and we're going to have later in the week a video on trading, because I usually like to wait to the fourth week before I do any training videos, because I really don't think you should be making trades first couple of weeks. You know what I mean? People aren't really into it. You want to evaluate your players, see what's going on. So we're going to be getting 2 to 3 videos a week going out there, and our VIP clients that pay $7.77 months get a lot of private videos from me going into deep stashes and deep trading and stuff like that. We'll get to. But as far as running backs, Gibson's just a stash. I wouldn't even recommend him this week. It's too early. Too early for the football team, too early for the quarterback, too early for the running back. Okay? I actually been getting a lot of questions about Joshua Kelly, people are wondering if he's the guy or if it's the other running back. And, let's just talk, Justin, let's just talk about Joshua Kelly for a minute. I actually like him. I know he only had, 9 carries, but with Eckler out, I think he's going to get a lot more play. I feel very good about. He's really the number 2. He's the number 1 running back, power back, with Eckler being more of a scat back. But with Eckler out, I really like Kelly. A lot of people like Justin. I like Kelly. Don't ask me, too many questions on it. But I think in PPR, I think you got to go with Kelly, because he's already showing that he's picking up Eckler's receptions. And so I really like that. And I like Kelly. He didn't have a good week rushing the ball last week, but he's been formidable and he's been coming along. I like Justin too, but I really like Kelly. I think that he will do very well. And it's a risk, but I would... I really like what he does with the passing game. He's going to be involved, and that team has to run the ball. It's obvious they're having issues throwing the ball. As far as that's concerned, and again, I'm only going to mention deeper dive running backs, because the regular running backs are already on a team, and this is a waiver wire. So I actually, more than Kelly, that's more of a toss-up between 2 people. We'll see how it works out. I actually like Devonta Freeman. Here in New York, read a lot of news on the Giants and the Jets, and I really like what's going on with Devonta Freeman. I like what I saw last game. He was getting more, almost a dozen touches rushing the ball. That's a good sign, okay? He might even get up to 15 or 20. If they're not always playing from behind. But the nice part is in PPR, he had 4 receptions for 35 yards. And that's kind of what we want to see from a Devonta Freeman, because he's not even integrated into the offense, and it looks like his numbers are climbing. And he's someone you could probably get on a waiver wire right now, because I think after next week he's going to be gone. He's probably going to get, closer to 13 to 15 if they're not behind by a lot. And, the Giants, I don't think you have to worry about them being down by 3 or 4 touchdowns and airing the ball out. There's one thing that a lot of people aren't realizing. The Giants have a defense that's underrated. This defense, went up against the Rams, high-octane offense, and they shut down the Rams. I mean, that game was actually winnable. And this is the New York Giants we're talking about. And, of course, I'm a Giant fan. I'm from New York. But that's besides the point. Okay, the Giants are a developing team right now. They're not a great football team right now. They're developing. I hope they get better. But their defense, I've seen in a couple of games this year, play really, really, really well. And, look, they're going against a Dallas team that can't stop anybody. So I really like, the matchup against Dallas. I mean, people are putting up 40 points. I think the Giants can hang with this team, if the Cleveland Browns can, I mean, no offense to Cleveland Browns, but, they weren't playing all that well before last game, but they looked pretty good against Dallas. So I really like Devonta Freeman here. I think the Giants are going to be in more games than people think. I don't think they're going to be, and they have to establish a running game. They have to establish the play-action game. They have to establish a running game. Daniel Jones, when they're running the ball and they're establishing a running game, is a different quarterback. When, they're just trying to pass all the time, he looks a little, shooken up. He needs to relax. They need to establish the short passing game, the running game, and then play action for the wide receivers. And the wide receivers are out there. They have good receivers. They have a good tight end. So they need to pull it together. And, something about these Dallas Giant games, the games always come down to, like, the last possession. Doesn't matter what team is better than the other team. So I really like Devonta Freeman. Kelly, if you want to go Justin Jefferson, it's up to you. Okay? I just like Kelly. It's a gut feeling. Could be wrong. We'll see what happens. But in PPR, I like Kelly. As far as wide receivers, I've been talking about this guy all year. I've been talking about him in the draft, and it's Devontae Parker. He has, it looks like he's the clear number 1 on the team, getting 10 targets. How many times are we going to see Parker put up numbers like this? And he was injured a couple of games, where his numbers were lower, and he was playing injured. But that's a team that sometimes gets behind, and they need to air it out. And, Parker and Fitz have a great combination. I mean, this guy's got 12 targets last week. You can't keep ignoring this guy. This guy is doing pretty well. And, Miami's a little bit better than people think. Okay? They're not a bad football team anymore. They're a team, they're not a great football team either, but they're not a bad football team right now. Their defense isn't atrocious. Their offense isn't atrocious, and I see good things kind of happening with that team. Wide receiver, just overall organization. I kind of like the coach too. So I think they're heading in the right direction. I think they're low underrated. Not a great team, but I really like Devontae Parker. And Fitzmagic looks like he's starting to get his footing out there. So I really like that. I like Gardner Minshew, quarterback, so I also like DJ Shark, if he's still available. How he's available in waiver wires. All week long, people tell me he's available. I'm like, how is he available? This guy was a pretty good receiver last year, and he trained very hard in the offseason, had a great training camp, and got injured, and he's been injured. So he's just coming off, the guy comes back, puts up eight catches from 95 yards, 2 touchdowns, 9 targets. This is what this guy does, okay? This is what this guy does. DJ Shark Jr., I like him. I like the Jaguars' offense. I like this Minshew guy. He's for real. I mean, guy's just starting out. It's in the second year. Hasn't had a full training camp as a number 1. Still hasn't had one. Okay, last year and this year, played half a season last year, 3/4 of the season, and the guy seems like, He just keeps putting up numbers. I mean, it's hard. I wasn't really sold on the guy at first, but I'm just like, wow, this guy is really consistent. Other than maybe last week. And, sometimes it's just a bad matchup. And sometimes you just got to expect a bad game. But this guy's putting on, and Shark, people forget this guy was coming on last year, and he was another guy. It's like, yeah, he's coming on, not paying a lot of attention to him. And every week I'm seeing this guy put up numbers, put up numbers, put up numbers, put up numbers. I'm like, this guy's putting up numbers. He's putting up numbers. You can't dismiss it. You can't dismiss Minchie. You can't dismiss DJ Shark Jr. You can't dismiss the Jaguars offense, including the running back, who I like. It's just getting to the point where you have to start paying attention to these teams, and these players in fantasy, especially when they keep putting up numbers. And these were two guys I wasn't even, sold on. And the consistency at some point, you gotta pay attention. How you win fantasy football. The number one question I get asked a lot. You got to play the trends. Okay? You're watching T.Y. Hilton and you see the trend is almost trending down. That's when you have to step away from a player. When you watch A.J. Green, and A.J. Green's a great player, but when you see week after week it's trending down, it's not like he's just going to break out of the shell next week. Maybe at the end of the year he'll be a good guy to have in your team. Maybe not. But he's trending down. You have to, in fantasy football, you have to play trends. I'll tell you why. Because players get hot and players cool off. And when you see a guy like, we see a team like the Jaguars starting to put games together where they're looking good, you say, okay, something's about to happen here, and you need to ride that. And when things start to cool off, like right now, everyone's trying to buy certain play, like Mixon on the Bengals. Everyone's like, oh, he had a good week, let's sell him. Well, not really. And that's the most question I got asked the most this week was about Mixon. All week long. On social media, hundreds of questions I was answering about Mixon. Like, I should sell him. I should sell him. In 90, 80, at least 80 to 90% of the people were like, sell high, sell high, sell high, sell high. Everyone's saying that about Joe Mixon on the Bengals. Are you paying attention? Are you paying attention to what's going on with the Bengals? Are you paying attention to how comfortable and how good Burrow, their quarterback, is starting to look? Are you paying attention that the Bengals are actually winning games and tying games and they're in games and they have a brand new quarterback? Are you paying attention to the fact that they're starting to establish a running game, that their defense looks decent, and the overall football team and the organization of the team, and Burrow is just looking better and better each week, passing the ball, and they have a trio of good receivers? At some point, you have to say, before I so high on Mixon, this might actually be a trending up situation. It's not like Mixon just had a good game out of nowhere, and Burrow just had a good game out of nowhere, and their receivers just had a good game out of nowhere. Boyd's been putting up numbers week after week. So is Burrow, and Mixon's climbing. When you see a trend like that, that's a situation where you want to hold. That's a trend. Okay, they're trending up. That's when you hold. A player like Odell Beckham and a player like, the Cleveland Browns and Mayfield, that's not a trending up. Okay, that means they played the Dallas Cowboys. Okay, and everyone's putting up 40 points on the Dallas Cowboys. And that's basically what Cleveland did. And they were looking pretty awful before that. And the Mayfield-Beckham scenario was looking pretty awful. It's not like he had 12, 13 catches. Okay? And those catches were on trick plays. A trick sweep, a trick reverse, a trick sweep, throw it to Landry, and Landry passes it. Those were trick plays they had to get. That's not going to happen again. So that was sort of like a fluke. And Landry made that pass, not Mayfield. And Beckham made that play, not Mayfield. So, and Mayfield's numbers weren't that impressive, actually, when you really look at it. It's just that they did a few trick plays. They're playing Dallas. Dallas defense is very soft right now. No offense to Dallas. I like some of the players. Okay? But that's a situation on Beckham. You sell him high. If you have Mayfield, you sell you sell him high. I don't even know if you could call it selling high. Maybe it's not like he had a great fantasy day. Beckham did, though. Beckham, I would sell high. I mean, that's not a trending up situation. That was a fluke situation. So that's a difference. So Joe Mixon, I really like Joe Mixon. I like what's going on with the Jaguars. To get back to that, DJ Shark, Gardner Minshew, I love what's going on there with the whole football team. Okay? The whole football team. Running backs, defense, it just looks like the team's headed in the right direction. And I'm starting to pay attention. And when I start to pay attention, that's a trend. Okay? And that's why I'm on this podcast talking to you about it. Play the trends in fantasy football. Okay? Trending up or trending down. That's how you win. Okay? Talk about a trend up, Dalton Schultz. Okay? At Dallas. All right? He's playing against the Giants. Tight end. Is that a good situation? Probably. Okay? Probably. I'll tell you why. Okay? I'll tell you why. It's not like I think Dalton Schultz is going to put up huge numbers every week. It's not like, Dallas is throwing to their tight end all the time, in previous years with Witten. It's not the case, okay? They use their tight end a little bit, but the fact of the matter is Dallas's defense is playing so poorly, okay? Let me tell you how Dallas is a great football team. They're a great football team when they're running the ball with Elliott, when they have leads or it's a close game and they use the ball control offense. They can't play that because their defense is putting up 40 points a game. That makes Dalton Schultz viable. Okay, and I'm not saying this guy's going to get 10, 12 grabs a game or this, but you know what? If you want a tight end, and this is a deep dive waiver wire week 5, if you want a tight end that's going to get you 5 or 6 catches in 50 to 75 yards, then in maybe 12, 13, 14 points, let me tell you something. He's your guy. He's your guy. Dalton Schultz, he's your guy. Okay? He's your guy. I think he's going to get you 4 to 6 catches, 50 to 75 yards. Okay? Until they can straighten out and he's trending up now. A couple of weeks now, he might be trending down. Okay? Just like the San Diego, Justin Jefferson and Kelly. I think they're both going to be used. But in PPR, I like Kelly because I think he's going to get more passes. Okay? So, but I could be wrong. We'll see. I'm not saying you should start a guy like that, but maybe you should stash him and see. Or maybe you should stash both of them and see. See which one, rises up. As far as Dalton Schultz, though, Giants, it's a good play. I think you think there's going to be, some scoring in that game, okay? And that's a in division rivalry. So, as far as defense, anyone who's playing the Jets, no offense to the Jets, I'm a New York fan, Jet fan. I cheer for my New York teams, but let's face it, the Jets' defense is not looking good. And the Cardinals' defense is actually formidable. They got some pieces, even though they've given up some points lately, which I'm a little suspect of because their defense actually should be a little bit better. But I'm not surprised. At the beginning of the year, it takes a while for teams to get it together, but they have some good pieces on their defense, the Cardinals. And sometimes it takes 6 to 8 games for them to start to gel and mesh and learn how to play together. Even though you have good pieces, you got to learn how to play together. Okay, so that's either way. Anyone who's playing the Jets at this point, no disrespect to the Jets, I actually like the Cardinals here. If they're available, which they probably are, not many people have the Cardinals. Play the Jets. In fact, anyone who's playing the Jets are trending down. They're a mess right now. I wouldn't be surprised if the coach is fired soon. No disrespect to him, but I see that happening and. That's going to cause more turmoil. Play the Cardinals, okay? Now, as far as kickers, you're always looking for kickers in certain situations, teams that can move an offense, okay? Move their offense, but have trouble getting in the end zone. It's a perfect combination for a kicker. And if a kicker's going against a good defense, that's even better because their chance of getting in the end zone even less. And I actually like Rodrigo Blankenship of the Colts. Seems like this guy's getting a lot of opportunities. He's making his kicks. Seems like he's really consistent. They're having a hard time getting into the end zone. I mean, he's put up points like 15, 11, and 14 the last 3 weeks. That's a guy who's trending up. And kickers also become hot and become hot in a situation. And when you see a kicker kicking well like that, teams start to rely on a kicker more. Oh, hey, let's go to our kicker, man. This guy's been, putting stuff in. So, that's something to sort of look into. I really like Rodrigo Blankenship, and and they're going against Cleveland. Cleveland's defense may not be like all that, but they have some nice pieces on defense, decent in certain areas. And I just like the situation. I think there'll be points on the board. I think this guy will get into double digits again. So I'm Dean Curry, Fantasy Football, RSVP. This is week 5. Let's get excited. Let's get excited for fantasy football. Let's get excited. And remember, you can support our podcast. You could join on fantasyfootballrsvp.com. You can go on there, pay $7.77, and you get me, the expert, giving you advice every week in a 7-minute Zoom call or Skype call, what have you. You can send me your lineup once a week. We could go over your lineup through email or on Skype. And we can also, you can send me any trade possibilities that you have. I'm really good at figuring out trades. I've worked some incredible trades through the years, and I just have a real knack for it. And you become part of our private club. You get private videos, private chat rooms on Facebook, so on and so forth. And you support the channel as well, which is always bringing you top edge information in fantasy football. So that's on fantasyfootballrsvp.com. YouTube channel, Fantasy Football RSVP. Instagram, Fantasy Football RSVP. Twitter, FFootball RSVP. And of course, Facebook Business Fantasy Football RSVP. As well, and we're on 10 radio stations, iHeartRadio, Google Play Music, iMusic, Amazon Music. We're on all of those, and the company and our firm, Fantasy Football platform, is really growing. I want to thank everyone for that, being a part of it, and let's win your leagues. That's what this is about, baby. Let's win your weeks. So Fantasy Football, I'm Dean Curry, Fantasy Football RSVP. So have yourself a wonderful day.